It looks like we shook the rumor tree when we covered the apparent appearance of the Canon EOS R1 at a recent G7 Summit meeting in Hiroshima, Japan, because for the first time ever, we have actual validated leaked specifications of the Canon EOS R1. And it's not built from off-the-shelf parts. It's actually designed and engineered from the ground up, not just simply a rehash of the R5 and the R3 with some minor improvements. Will the Canon EOS R1 make current cameras seem somewhat dated, old, and wanting? Will it actually live up to being the master of everything? Not just the master of Canon cameras, but stand above the Sony Alpha 1, the Nikon Z9, Leica Q3, and any other camera, making them seem like antiques. Stick around after this short break for all the details, for a glimpse at the Canon EOS R1, Canon's flagship mirrorless camera. But first, please do me a favor. Follow me on Twitter, but most importantly, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything and really does help this channel grow. And if you're already a subscriber, thanks so much for your support. The Canon EOS R1 leaked specifications are actually from a prototype EOS R1, so these specifications may very well change in the final release. But the prototype is a real camera, and the specs are bold and give us a glimpse into the outcomes that this camera can deliver. Okay, I've teased you enough. Let's get right to the leaked specifications of the Canon EOS R1. First off, sensor resolution. The Canon 1DX Mark III has a 20 megapixel sensor, while the R3 has a 24 megapixel sensor. So the Canon EOS R1, according to Canon rumors, is going to be right around that 45 megapixel point, and I would guess somewhere between 45 and 50. And this is because, based on the feedback that Canon's been getting from the R3 and other Canon customers, they don't really want to go much past 45 megapixels. That's kind of the sweet spot. Now, what about the LCD? Well, this is interesting. It's supposed to be the biggest LCD ever on the market for cameras, not like a 52-inch LCD that you would get in a television, but when it comes to cameras, it's going to be the biggest ever. Now, we don't know if it's going to be 3.4, 3.5 inches, but it's going to be somewhere between 3.2 and 4 inches. And the EVF, well, it's going to have the highest resolution ever. Sony currently has the highest at 9.44 million dots. And the refresh rate, well, the refresh rate is supposed to be, the fastest available as well. So a new EVF, a new LCD, this camera is built from the ground up, new parts, so that's going to be impressive. And of course, the EVF is going to be blackout free. And I'm wondering, though, how fast it will go. Will it double 120, go up to 240, and will it still have blackout free? I'm really curious to know how fast this camera is going to shoot in terms of continuous frames per second. There's no mention in any way whatsoever, and we're going to get to, it is going to have dual card slots, but I'm going to talk about that in a minute because some sources are saying something pretty incredible. Some have been predicting that the Canon EOS R1 will be the first Canon camera to have a global shutter. I don't think so. Canon Rumors doesn't think so, and I'm going to call it right here. I don't believe it's going to have it. We're expecting a new image processor. Now, there's no mention from Canon Rumors about a new image processor, but I expect there to be a new one, and they could go two. I don't think they're going to take the Digic X image processor and put two of those in there. I really suspect this is going to have a brand new image processor that we're going to start to see in other Canon cameras, such as the Canon EOS R5 Mark II. And with the speed and performance of this image processor with a new sensor, and this is most likely going to be stacked like the R3 is stacked, so I would really expect it not to bother with a global shutter. I really don't think that's going to be the case, and to have a global shutter at around 45 megapixels would definitely be a big feat. Now, in terms of the battery, it's going to have the LPE19, so no real changes there. But let's talk about those dual card slots. Now, one of the sources is telling Canon Rumors that it's going to have dual card slots, but one of them is going to be a Type-C card. That's right, a Type-C card. Now, if you'll recall in this video here, my April Fool's video, I said that the Canon EOS R1 was going to have dual card slots and they were going to be Type-C. Now, according to the one source, only one of the card slots is going to be Type-C, the other one Type-B. And just to give you an idea in terms of performance, assuming they're going to go Gen 3, the performance of Type-C is twice that of Type-B, which is twice that of Type-A. And this right here is actually a prototype of a Type-C card. So the exact size and dimensions give you an idea here. This is a Canon, this is an OEM LPE6 battery, not the E6N. And take a look right here. You can see them side by side. It's a little bit bigger, but it's certainly plausible it could go inside a Canon EOS R1. They could even put 2 of them in there. But you see, here's the thing. Current speeds are based on Gen 3. If we go to Gen 4, well, then what you're able to do with a Type B card is get the exact same performance of a Type C. So I think it's far more plausible that the EOS R1 could support Gen 4 Type B cards than it would to go with a Type C card, but we'll just have to wait and see. Again, a lot of this information is based on the prototype EOS R1 out there. We don't know how many prototypes are out there. And maybe they are testing Type C because, you know, they're really not that big. So that's really interesting. Type C. What do you think? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Now, in terms of the size, ergonomics, and feel of the camera, if you've ever seen the Canon EOS R3, it's definitely bigger than the R5, but it doesn't feel all that heavy. It's actually quite light to the touch. And I'd be quite happy with the R3 in terms of its design. But the R1, well, it's going to be bigger. It's definitely going to be bigger, maybe to house those Type C card slots. And it's going to be a little bit more ergonomic. So that's really interesting. And on the top, we are going to have an LCD like the R5. But unlike the R5, the one on the R1, well, it's going to be color. At this point, we have no information on the video specifications of this camera, but I'm going to call it and say there's no doubt that this camera is going to be able to shoot 8K video raw at 24, 25, 30, 50, and 60 frames per second because, well, we can see that in the Nikon Z8 and the Nikon Z9. But I'm willing to believe that Canon's going to push that all the way up to 120 frames per second. But I think where we're going to see the performance is in 4K. We're going to get that 8K oversample 4K, not just in 24 and 25, 30, but also in 50 and 60 frames per second. I'd really love to see it in 120 frames per second as well. In fact, I'd rather see more detailed 120 frames per second in 4K than I would in seeing 150 or 160 frames per second. But at this point, we have no leaked specifications on the video capabilities of the Canon EOS R1. Canon Rumors is saying that the launch event of the R1 is going to be a long, drawn-out affair. We'll probably start with a development announcement, and, well, we're kind of starting here with leaked specifications. So we're going to get a series of leaks, then we're going to get I'm a little bit excited here. Then we're going to get a development announcement, and then we probably get other announcements. And if you take a look at the R5 back in 2020, it started with a development announcement, but about 4 weeks before that, we got some detailed leak specifications on Canon Rumors. We got the development announcement about 4 weeks later. Then about 5 weeks later, Canon Australia came out with its own campaign saying the king is back, not giving us a lot of information, but validating a few more of those leak specifications. Then about 6 weeks later at NAB, Canon came out and gave an awful lot of information, confirming all the 8K information. And I think that if you remember that campaign, a combination of Canon officially announcing stuff through various presentations and shows to the leak stuff coming from Canon Rumors, I suspect that's exactly what we're going to see with the Canon EOS R1. And I think it's time to put your seatbelts on because we're going to have some turbulence and we're going to start getting leak specifications as we are here today. And I wouldn't be surprised in a few weeks we'll get validation of these and also some video specifications, as after all, this is the ordinary filmmaker. Now, I want to tell you one thing. I am planning on purchasing this camera. I've already set aside funding and budget for the R5 Mark II and the R1. And I'm kind of getting excited about this right now because I've had the R5 for 3 years. I love the camera. It's very good. It's very reliable. But the R1, it's kind of like those TV shows like Top Gear or the Grand Tour that show these really expensive cars. Like most of the people watching it can't afford it, but we love to see them. We love to enjoy them. And when you're watching me day after day and you're using my affiliate links, and again, thank you. When that money comes in, I like to take that money, turn it around and reinvest it back into the channel. So instead of just reviewing the R1 for a couple of days or a week or the R5 Mark II, just like with the R5, I can tell you from experience shooting stills, from shooting video, from doing live streams up to 3.5 hours, what the camera's like to live with day in and day out, because I think that's far more important. So the Canon EOS R1, we're expecting it to be announced sometime before the Paris Olympics in 2024. And according to Canon rumors, they expect it to be in people's hands and not in a beta testing, but to be in a final product. So if that's the case, probably it will be announced. I think an announcement in January is certainly possible. That follows the 1DX Mark III. But the announcement is most likely going to be in the first quarter and it available for sale sometime between the first and second quarter. That's my prediction. Now, in terms of pricing, we don't know. Now, I have predicted that the price of this camera is going to be around, well, I think $64.99 to $69.99. And with the Nikon Z9 being priced at, and this is pretty impressive, $5,500. And the Nikon Z8 also with a stack sensor at $3,900 or $4,000. With those, that pricing is, Canon notices that. So I really don't think we're going to see it go north of $7,000, although a very reliable source has told me that he thinks there's no way it isn't going to cost around $7,500, but we'll just have to wait and see. It's just conjecture at this point. But the one thing that surprised me the most about these leaked specifications is the possibility of a Type-C card. And this is an actual real prototype based on the Gen 3 specifications for a Type-C CF Express card. It's pretty big. And again, here's the battery right next to it. So there you go. Pretty impressive. Because I know the focus is focused on my eye, so I'll bring it right to about here. Yeah, I'm really intrigued. So I'm super excited. I want to get this information out to you. So I got to quickly edit this, and I've got a very, very busy day with meetings, not just at my day job, but also for this channel. So wow, a lot going on. Oh, and one more thing. You might have noticed that in the description, I already have pre-order links. Yep, go ahead, take a peek. They are there. Now, you might be watching this video in the days and weeks before the EOS R1 announcement, but most of you are watching this some 6 months ahead of that announcement. So why do I have these pre-order links there? They're not going to give you anything at this point, are they? No, they're not. They're what I call smart pre-order links. So once Canon announces the Canon EOS R1 and the pre-orders available from Canon and other retailers, this will give you every single pre-order option and package available. Just like these links for the Nikon Z8, you'll see all the Canon EOS R1 pre-order options offered by Canon, including body alone, along with packages offered by Adorama and B&H. This simply allows you to compare and select, saving you time so that way you can get further up in the queue. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest camera news and rumors, well then go ahead and subscribe, but also choose all notifications. And for all those minor news stories, minor news and rumors, or pricing information, all those stories that aren't quite big enough to have their own separate video, well then go ahead and follow me on Twitter, because I'm constantly putting out information that isn't big enough to have its own separate video, like all the deals that we're seeing right now. There's a huge amount of deals. You're saving $500 to $700 off bodies alone on the Canon R5, the S1H, even the GH6. There's so many camera bodies and lenses on sale, and I often tweet those out here. I've got some links in the description down below, but it's just amazing. There's too many to list off here. I actually did a video on the weekend, this one here, and it's just amazing the amount of deals. So if you're looking at saving $500 to $700 or even more, some incredible deals like the Canon EOS R5 right now, $32.99 at Adorama, and that includes a free battery grip and a free EF to RF adapter. Now over at Adorama, I think you can get it for $33.99, and it includes a free battery grip, but no EF to RF adapter. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a great day, and we'll see you again soon.